Hello, class. So in the last video, we composed this. I added a sort of a background element to block out part of the perspective. It might not be blocking out a perspective in your case, but it still might be a color, a black, a white. And the color really doesn't matter, even though I used a dark gray with some transparency. You may have used any color. You may or may not have used transparency. You may or may not have the perspective behind it, and it might be in a different location. Nonetheless, I think mine's going to look well. It's also going to be good for demonstration purposes of what everyone's going to need to do. Because even if you can see your CAD work cleanly, there's probably still some edits you want to make to it. And that's what this video is going to be about. So I'm going to unlock my CAD layer, and I'm going to work on these elements to make them as cleanly readable as possible. Now, one of the things I'm going to start with is just to make sure that we can see them, which is really interesting and can be used, is I'm going to turn all the lines white. So I'm going to just use my black arrow and select everything, and I'm going to go to the stroke, click on it, and just set it to white. And again, because of the way I brought these in, Illustrator allows me to do that, and we can see now I can read them a lot better. There's still a lot of work I can do, but I can read them a lot better. And my general recommendation is that your line work should probably be either black or white. That's not to say that there aren't exceptions to that rule. I have seen times when there has been some other colors, at least maybe if it's just in a particular piece of the drawing to highlight, but usually, starting with either black if it's a white or light colored background, and white if it's a dark or black background is a good way to go. And again, because I'm an illustrator, I have full control. I can change it really simply just by changing the stroke. Of course, I can change anything else about the stroke, and I want you to take some time now, and I'll show you just as a review, to change any other line work you might think will be needed and take a hard look at your drawing. So for example, you could say this ground plane that we have in here in the elevation, that could be thicker because it's a ground plane. So I could select on it, I could go over to my stroke, and I could make it thicker. If you make it however thick you feel necessary. Nice 6 is nice and thick there. You might review the drawing that I sort of provided and not like the line weights. You can holistically select something like this color and go select same stroke weight, and it selects everything of that weight, and you can make it thinner or thicker as needed. I just made it slightly thinner. You might look at individual objects and say, you know what, some things just don't look good. These up and down. Maybe I'll just delete those. Maybe I don't need those. In fact, we'll get to text later on. I find doing all the text in Illustrator is usually the easiest because you can be most consistent. So you don't want something, delete it. If you don't like a piece of furniture, delete it. This sink, in this case, it's really too thick. I think that had something to do with the block that I used for it. So I can select it and change the line weight to be pretty thin. There's actually a lot of lines there, which is one of the reasons why it's doing this. So I might need to make it really, really thin because there's so many lines there like that to improve it. So go around and see if you want to make the cut lines thicker, make them thicker. If you want to make anything thinner, make them thinner. I have the furniture pretty light. You might want to make it line weight thicker in that case. The point is, Illustrator is a great point to just select anything, change the color, and change the line weights, and so on and so forth. And that's what you should be doing when you're setting up a presentation board. That's one reason. What's one of the powerful things about Illustrator is having that control over it. So again, make your own decisions on this, and we'll come back and we'll continue in the next video to work on how to make these read even more than just dealing with line weights.